Okay, hello and welcome to session 6. In this session, we're going to be dealing with all three strands of Criterion C. So we'll be looking at the strands specifically related to the product or outcome that you've created, to your thinking skills, and also to your demonstration of communication skills. So let's start with the product. So to score full marks for your assessment of your product or outcome, it says here that you need to create an excellent product or outcome in response to the goal, global context, and criteria. So some really important ways to sort of develop that. So let's look at the clarification for what it means to actually be able to do this. So in your report, you need to make sure that you have evidence that you've created a high quality product, or if you're doing more of an outcome, a highly successful outcome. So that's going to be based, what makes a high quality or highly successful outcome is your ability to kind of meet your success criteria that you've created earlier in the project, and those success criteria were suitably rigorous to set a really high standard for yourself, and then you've tried as hard as you can to hit those. As you can see in the second point, you need to be making sure that you're demonstrating an analysis of how you achieve the project's goal and connect it with the global context to create a product or outcome that comprehensively meets this criteria for its success. So again, hitting as many of those success criterion as you possibly can. So again, this can seem like it's quite challenging, especially if you set a really high bar for yourself. And it is, but that's also why the IB has only given it one strand of your whole mark for your personal project. So nothing to stress too much about, but you do want to do a good job here. And this is the section in your report, when we get to the report section, that you will be able to include some pictures as well to really sort of demonstrate your product or your outcome. So again, make sure that while you're building, or if you end up giving a presentation for your outcome, that you're creating or gathering some kind of evidence of that. Maybe have a friend take a few pictures of you presenting if you're presenting to a different class, or you can take several pictures of your product to include in your report. Okay. For the second strand of Criterion C, it asks that you demonstrate your thinking skills. So again, that descriptor for the top marks is going to be demonstrating excellent thinking skills. Now this is the third criteria based on the ATL skills. So we've already had to look at our research skills, and we've also had to look at our self-management skills. So now we're looking at thinking skills. So in order to meet this objective, we need to make sure that we are, again, analyzing and evaluating our critical and creative thinking skills that we use that were appropriate to the project, and that we're showing a transfer of learning from the research into hitting our project's goals. So two things are really there, that we're using these creative and critical thinking skills, but also that we're taking the information that we learned from the research and we're transferring it to try and solve the problems along the way for our project's goal. So one of the important things when you're looking at this section is to make sure that you understand what the IB counts as thinking skills. So we're going to go through a few basics now. So just the bare basics of thinking skills, you need to be able to make sure that you're identifying problems, you're considering ideas and possible solutions, and you're drawing conclusions. So again, you're all doing this anyways, but you need to make sure that you have some evidence of this in your process journal. It can't just be your word at the end. So think about how you're going to create evidence of that along the way, and you're recording everything in your process journal. Okay, but as strong students, we're not happy with just the basics. So to move beyond the basics, you can see here a much larger list of thinking skills, including evaluating and managing risk, identifying obstacles and challenges, using brainstorming and visual diagrams to generate new ideas and inquiries, and inquiring in different contexts to gain different perspectives. So again, make sure if you're using some of these that you're clearly evidencing that. You can't just say it in your report, okay? You need to say it in your report, and we'll get to that later, but you also need to make sure you have evidence for it, okay? The list goes on, though, if you want top marks, and there are some more complex thinking skills you can use. Here's a list here, but I'll include a link in this video to a much larger list of thinking skills that you can look over. But again, if you want top marks, it's not about doing all of these. No one expects you to do all of these, and some of them won't be relevant to your specific project. But you want to make sure that you're using at least a few from off this top level list, a few from the Beyond the Basics list, and definitely all of the basics one. You need to be able to speak about how you use them in your report, and you need to have evidence that you use them from your process journal. And that's it for strand 2 of Criterion C. Strand 3 of Criterion C is quite similar in terms of your demonstration of an ATL skill, but this ATL skill is communication and social skills. So similarly to C2, C3 asks you to demonstrate excellent communication and social skills. So this one's a bit more complex, but we'll go through it in a very similar way. Let's look at what the IB asks for first. So in order to demonstrate excellent communication and social skills, we need to be able to have an analysis and evaluation of three key things. One is the valuable, ongoing, essential interaction with those relevant to the project using a variety of appropriate modes of communication. So you need to be talking with people who are essential as parts of your project. And we'll go into who those people are. I'm sure you can think of a few already. Okay. If appropriate, you need to be thinking about or analyzing and evaluating how effectively you worked with others. Okay, so if you're working with members of the community or friends, or you're using students for research or something like that, then how effectively did you work with them? And the last point is a point that I really don't want you to stress about, but I want you to be aware of, and that's that you have a report that is consistently clear, coherent, and effectively follows the required structure. Now, coming very soon, I will give you that structure in great detail, but again, this is just to help you make sure that you are following it very effectively and clearly. It's all going to be there for you, so as long as you can kind of use your command of language to consistently communicate clearly and coherently, I'll take care of the structure part as long as you follow along. So let's look at what counts as communication skills. So again, just like we did with the thinking skills, let's look at the basics, okay? So you need to make sure that you're organizing and depicting information logically, that you're establishing communication with your supervisors. So again, you can't just say that you worked well with your supervisor. This is where you need to have evidence of regular meetings. That's, I recommended once every 2 weeks. Some people are doing more. You don't want to do too much less though, or else you're going to be in danger when it comes time to write this up, okay? Similarly, you need to make sure that you're writing regularly in your process journal. We recommended, at least once a week. Certainly whenever anything major happens, or you get some new ideas, or your goal changes direction, or your criterion change, anytime something noteworthy happens, it needs to be recorded in your process journal. And the last 2 points there, the structure, following the guidelines and your appendices, again, we'll go into the whole report details in a later video, but you'll have a very clear structure to follow. Just make sure you follow it. To move beyond the basics, there's a few other ideas here that, again, anyone who wants to receive higher marks in this criterion should make sure that they are doing all of these and evidencing all of these in their process journal. So that's, again, maintaining communication with people relevant to the project. So again, those regular meetings become very important. Those can be meetings with myself that you write up, or your supervisor, or specific teachers in the school, parents, community members, anyone who's kind of important to your project. Okay, you're working with others within clear expectations. You're giving and receiving feedback to those people that are helping you. And as part of your report, you're not just having your appendices, but you're using them appropriately. And again, don't stress about appendices or what are appendices or how do we choose them. We'll go into details later. But you'll have some choice about what you'll include in your report, and the better choices you make affects your communication skills. Okay. Again, similar to thinking skills, there's also a top level of skills, and the list is again longer than I can fit on this slide. But you can see a few more complex things here. So listening actively to others, other perspectives and ideas, managing and resolving conflict and working together, use a variety of media to communicate with a range of audiences, and encouraging others to contribute where it makes sense. So again, this list goes on for a really long time. So what I wanted to do for you to help you kind of keep track of everything is I've put together a Google document for you. You can find that document at the link here, gg.gg/ppatl, and that will give you a full list of examples for all the ATL skills covered. We've now made it through research skills, self-management skills, thinking skills, and communication and social skills. So you'll see it laid out very similarly to how it was in this video. You'll have the basics, kind of the must-dos, then the next level ones that you should try to include most of if you want to get full marks, and that real top level skill where maybe you can include just a couple, but again, including them means two things. It means doing them and recording that in your process journal, and then it means talking about that in your report. So I wish everyone the best of luck with completing all the material for Criterion C of the personal project. And another video will come out shortly to outline all the things you need to do while writing your report.